Hello again. You're watching today on eNCA DSTV channel 403. Now, the ANC leadership race is heating up. Warming up to run are Cyril Ramaphosa, Zweli Mkhize, Paul Mashatile, and even Jacob Zuma. Also in the heats are Naledi Zuma and Nomvula Mkonyane. Of course, the ANC preparing for its national elective conference come December. Let's find out if the ANC is really ready for a female president. Gender activist Naledi Morojele is joining us now on today, on this Friday afternoon. Naledi, good afternoon. Welcome to today. Thank you very much for your time. The ANC itself tells us about the 50-50 balance that's needed in terms of gender in its ranks. But you look at the nominations currently, we know we're still a long way to December. You see predominantly more than 50% male names coming to the fore.
Hi, Bradan. Thanks for having me, and good afternoon to your viewers as well. You're absolutely correct. After 1994, one of the main policies of the ANC in terms of its candidate list was to have a 50-50 representation of men and women. But for some reason, which most of us attribute to patriarchy, women have never been at the helm of the ANC. And that's largely because the ANC, despite this quota policy they are still an extremely patriarchal society. And I think, for example, the candidacy of Dr. Naledi Zuma, I think, is really an example of how women leaders are often used as a tool. Whether they're qualified or not is an entirely different conversation, but you see that women will only ascend to serious positions if, it benefits, some males within the party, unfortunately.
Yeah, so could maybe also along fractional lines, who knows? I mean, if you look, for example, at the public nomination that was announced a few days ago by the ANC's Provincial Executive Committee in KwaZulu-Natal, in terms of December, of the top 6 positions, you see the name of Nomvula Mkonyane as a Deputy Secretary General. But the other key roles, you don't see a woman.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we were all very much surprised to not see Dr. Naledi Zuma there and instead seeing Nomvula Mkonyane. And it may be that, perhaps, as compared to in 2017, perhaps Dr. Naledi Zuma doesn't have the support that she used to have. It may be a sign of the lessening of, the role of Jacob Zuma within the party, because we know he is one of the people who has put forward Naledi Zuma in this particular race. And so it was quite surprising, but I think it is a sign of things to come. I don't believe that this time around Naledi Zuma will be successful, and I'll even be surprised if even Mokonyane herself makes it onto the top 6 of the ANC.
Yeah, because it's still a long way to go, because the ANC tells us its conference is a conference of branches. Branches are the ones who nominate who should be in the National Executive Committee, and of those, which 6 should be at the top. I'm just wondering, what would your view be, Naledi, if I asked, do you think the ANC will ever be ready to have a female president?
I think it will be, but as I indicated, I think it will be dependent on the opportunism of people within the party. I think in terms of viewing women as equal, the ANC is very far from that. But I think if it is politically expedient to have a woman in the presidency or the deputy presidency, it is possible. And, again, it's not about the qualifications of the women. They may be qualified, they may be unqualified. I mean, if we look at Naledi Zuma, she's an extremely qualified technocrat, not only in South Africa, but, she was previously at the African Union as well. So you would assume that she would be a front runner based on her qualifications. But, in politics, it's all about power and money and who has the resources and who has the numbers in terms of the branches and then eventually the delegates conference. And so it's really going to depend on political expediency and which woman is there at the right time and the right place.
You know, finally, and very briefly, when Dr. Phumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka was the deputy president of the country, many people thought South Africa was moving in a very short space of time in the right direction. You had a female deputy president, but it's like we're a long way from there now. When this year began, we saw Lindiwe Sisulu making some statements against the judiciary at the beginning of this year, and people said she was positioning herself to a particular faction within the ANC, but she's gone a little bit quiet now.
Yeah, exactly. I think there are these are signs that perhaps the RET faction has been successfully neutralized by Cyril Ramaphosa and his supporters in the ANC. Even, you know, in 2017, when Lindiwe Sisulu was running, you know, she was very visible in her campaigns, but she didn't have the right numbers. Dr. Dlamini Zuma had the right numbers. Remember, it was very close results between her and Cyril at that conference. But I think this time around, I think the very long shot for Dr. Dlamini Zuma, I think the very long shot for Lindiwe Sisulu. I think if they make it into, I doubt they'll make it into the role of president or deputy president, but it's possible they could at least make it to the top 6, and for sure they'll still be in the NEC. But I think, you know, we are very far from having true substantive representation of women in the ANC and ultimately in the presidency.
Thank you very much for your time and insights on today, this Friday afternoon. That's Naledi Morojele.